Send your stories in our Facebook page and be featured in our next videos. Link is in the description. As I entered the carnival grounds, a shiver ran down my spine. The place was deserted, save for the flickering neon lights casting eerie shadows on the rusting rides. The air was thick with the smell of cotton candy and popcorn, but there was no laughter, no joy in the air, only a haunting silence. I couldn't resist exploring the decaying carnival. It was as if time had frozen here, leaving behind a sinister aura. My footsteps echoed ominously as I made my way past the forlorn ticket booth. I glanced at the faded posters depicting smiling clowns, and they seemed to leech the happiness from the atmosphere. The Ferris wheel creaked and groaned as it turned, its once bright colors faded and peeling. I stared at it for a moment, considering a ride, but something about the way it swayed in the wind made me think twice. I moved on. My attention was drawn to a dilapidated carousel, its horses looking more like grotesque creatures from a nightmare than playful steeds. I approached the carousel cautiously and noticed a small music box, covered in dust, sitting on a weathered control panel. Curiosity got the better of me, and I wound the crank. A haunting melody began to play, echoing eerily through the abandoned carnival. The notes were melancholic, and they seemed to seep into my very soul, filling me with a sense of dread. I tried to stop the music, but the crank wouldn't budge. Panic set in as I realized I was trapped in this eerie serenade. The carousel came to life, its horses moving on their own, their lifeless eyes fixated on me. They galloped in a macabre dance, their movements synchronized to the haunting melody. I stumbled back, my heart racing, but the music held me in its thrall. I was helpless, a captive audience to this ghastly performance. As the carousel spun faster and faster, the world around me blurred. The ground seemed to drop away, and I felt myself being lifted into the air. I was no longer in control of my own body, a mere puppet of the sinister tune. The world outside the carousel became a swirling nightmare of colors and shapes. Hours passed, or maybe it was days, I couldn't tell. The carousel finally slowed, and the music began to fade. I stumbled off the platform, my legs weak and unsteady. The carnival was even more decrepit than before, as if it had aged 100 years in an instant. I ran from the cursed carnival, the haunting melody still ringing in my ears. As I reached the exit, I glanced back one last time. The carousel had stopped moving, the horses frozen in their grotesque poses. But I knew the melody would play again, luring in another unsuspecting victim. The carnival had always been a place of wonder and excitement for me, but that night, it turned into a house of horrors I would never forget. I found myself drawn to a sinister-looking tent at the far end of the grounds, a place called the House of Mirrors. As I entered, I was immediately struck by the oppressive darkness. The only source of light came from the dimly lit mirrors that lined the walls, each one distorted and warped in strange ways. I took a tentative step forward, and the floor beneath me seemed to shift, making me stumble. The mirrors seemed to mock me, reflecting grotesque versions of myself. In one, I was a hunched, twisted figure, while in another, I was stretched impossibly tall and thin. Fear began to creep in as I realized that I was not alone in the maze of mirrors. Distorted figures appeared and disappeared in the reflections, moving in unnatural ways. I tried to retrace my steps, but the mirrors seemed to shift and change, leading me deeper into the labyrinth. My own reflection became more grotesque with each passing mirror, my face contorted in terror. The air grew colder, and I could hear faint whispers echoing through the maze, unintelligible but filled with malice. I stumbled upon a mirror that seemed different from the rest. It was larger and more ornate, framed with intricate carvings of demons and monsters. My reflection in this mirror was the most horrifying yet, a nightmarish version of myself with bloodshot eyes and a malevolent grin. I reached out to touch the mirror, and to my horror, my hand passed through the glass as if it were nothing more than mist. I pulled my hand back, trembling, and watched as the mirror began to ripple like water. A cold, skeletal hand emerged from the mirror's surface, followed by a gaunt figure clad in tattered rags. The figure stepped out of the mirror and into the room with me. Its eyes were hollow, its skin pallid, and it moved with an unsettling grace. It extended a bony hand toward me, and I knew I had to escape. I turned and ran deeper into the maze, the whispers growing louder and more malicious. I lost all sense of time and direction as I fled through the twisting corridors of mirrors. My breath came in ragged gasps, and my heart felt as if it would burst from my chest. Just when I thought I could go no further, I stumbled into a mirrored dead end. The malevolent figure appeared before me, its grin widening impossibly. I was trapped, surrounded by mirrors that reflected my own terror. The whispers grew louder, and the figure reached out for me. As its cold fingers brushed my skin, I felt a searing pain, and everything went black. I woke up outside the carnival, disoriented and shaken. The house of mirrors had vanished, leaving only an empty space. I stumbled away, haunted by the memory of that nightmarish encounter and the chilling laughter that still echoed in my ears. The carnival would never be the same for me again, forever tainted by the horrors that lurked within the house of mirrors.